Okay, how do monounsaturated fats beat saturated fat and beat weight loss? I'm going to talk about a series of research here, okay? So the first interesting fact is the intake of foods higher in the monounsaturated compared to foods higher in saturated fat may reduce body weight, body fat, and insulin resistance when consumed on top of a diet moderate to high in carbohydrates. Now, here's why. In a study that focused on male obesity, and I get to females in a second, it followed overweight or obese men who ate a diet high in saturated fat and then switched to a diet that was predominantly monounsaturated fat, but the same amount of grams and energy, okay? And this diet was followed for 4 weeks. The men lost weight and lost more body fat as opposed to muscle mass on the monounsaturated fat diet, okay? Even though they ate the same amount of calories or kilojoules. So sources of fat in the saturated rich diet were milk, butter, cheese, red meat, so the fatty meat from red meats, whereas the monounsaturated rich diet contained olive oil, nuts, and avocados. All food was provided to the subjects by the researchers and no other food was permitted. Okay. Why did this happen and how did it happen? Substituting dietary saturated fat with unsaturated fat, predominantly the monounsaturated, induced a small but significant loss of body weight and fat mass without a significant change in total energy or fat intake. 40% of their total energy was fat in these studies. So 40%, that's more than I've recommended, okay? This holds true for postmenopausal women and postmenopausal obese women, a group that has a notoriously difficult time in losing weight or maintaining weight from not putting on weight. One study showed that after consuming meals with equal calories, but one with fat coming from olive oil and the other with fat coming from creams or saturated fat, women who ate the olive oil meal had higher rates of fat oxidation, so fat breakdown, after the meal. What this means is in the hours after the meal, these women used more fat for cellular energy rather than their carbohydrates. That's pretty big. So their body chose to use the fat to be broken down instead of the carbs. And if you want to lose fat, you've got to burn fat. In this study among the obese women, the thermic effect of food was significantly higher in the meal containing olive oil versus the cream. Okay, actually more than double. It was double the burning. Okay, there are other benefits to replacing saturated fat with monos. Okay, subjects reported feeling more physically energetic and also they felt more satiated, so they weren't feeling hungry, whereas when they had the cream that was the saturated fat, they still felt hungry and wanted to eat. Okay, so they also had a large decrease in blood pressure than in the saturated fat group, and that was quite significant too. It was about 5 times the difference. And that could have been even more substantial if the diet was followed for months rather than just 4 weeks, okay? So this is just 4 weeks, this showed. As for the loss in body fat, it wasn't just the amount of body fat that changed, but it was where the body fat was stored in the body, because we know that fat stored around the abdomen has very high risk for several chronic lifestyle diseases, and this was largely reduced in the monounsaturated fatty acid groups that were eating the MUFAs, okay? So there was more reduction in visceral fat, so the fat around the internal organs, than in the saturated fat group. So You get better fat burning, increased satiety in not feeling hungry, reduced body fat around the abdominal area, and improved insulin sensitivity for eating more monounsaturated fats and having a more Mediterranean style diet, okay? Even though the Mediterranean style diet also includes breads and pastas, they still had less fat and healthier overall blood results. So having these monounsaturated, polyunsaturated fats helps with all of that. What else can I tell you in that